Hey guys, welcome to my little paintbrush. I am Miss Sarah, and today we get to paint a personal favorite of mine. I named it Harry's Books. So, the reason I love this one so much is because I painted it actually for my son, who loves Harry Potter as much as I do. And it's kind of an oldie and goodie in our studio. We try to repeat it every year around Harry Potter's birthday. So I hope you enjoy this and have a lot of fun with me. Because of all the colors we get to use in this painting, you can switch it up. One of our favorite things is seeing what our artists do with all the colors. So remember, you don't have to do it just like me. You can change the book colors, you can change the background, get creative, have a great time. I am going to keep a steady pace. Feel free to pause the video if you feel like you need a minute to catch up, or you can even forward it if you feel like you're faster than me. I'm down, either way. I'm going to use a couple brushes. I have a large flat, a small flat, and a detail brush. These are my favorites for this painting. Use what works for you. You're also going to need a jar of water or a cup of water. And if you notice here, I have all of my paint colors laid out on my plate. It's a lot easier for me to get to. So I like to separate them all. Also, if you're using our paint kit that has all the little cups of paint in it, you will want to separate your white. So don't contaminate it all at once. You will want to separate it into different piles, okay? So I have put my white in different places on my plate so I can mix colors with white as I go and not contaminate it all at once. All right, let's start with our largest flat brush, or your medium flat brush works too. We're just going to put our brush in some water, shake it off, loosen the bristles on our brush. Acrylic paint needs water. It gets super thirsty, so make sure your bristles are wet and ready to go. Okay, and let's start with our background first. I'm using red for my background around my books. You choose what color you want to use, but I do mix my red with some white. I always add some white to my paint. You can mix as much white with it as you want. Just remember, the more white you add, the pinker it will be. So I try to just add a little bit of white at a time and not too much. And then I'm just going to come here and go around my books with this red. Very carefully, just fill that in. This is where we also encourage our artists to reach around and paint the sides if you want to wrap your canvases. Some artists like to wrap their canvas and some don't. So that is a personal preference. But if you would like to wrap your canvas, go ahead and do that now. You can go ahead and reach around the side and paint it. There we go. We just want to slow down, and I'm doing my best to keep, my paint outside of my traced image here. But if you accidentally paint inside of it, don't stress it too much. We're going to be painting those books here shortly, and it's not a big deal. All right, so got this side done. Make sure everything's covered well with my red. There we go. Get around that book. It ends there, so I'm going to come to my other side now. Just get right here next to Harry's hairline. If you need a smaller brush than what I'm using a pretty big one, so you may feel like you need a smaller one, and that's perfectly fine. You just got to use what works for you. Okay, so we're going to come around this one now. Just trying to get that edge done. If you notice the white showing up too in my paint, it's because I don't mix my paint really well. And sometimes I put a little bit of white on the corner because I love brush strokes. So I'll put a little bit of white on the corner of my brush just so it can give it that fun brush streak. There we go. Lovely. Okay, so we have our background in. That's it. Very simple. Harry takes up most of the painting with his books, so that's all we're doing for our background. So the next thing we want to put in is Harry's head color. So now I'm going to take my skin tone, Okay, I have my skin tone here. I kind of ran out of room on my plate, so I have another plate for my skin tone. I like to mix some white, just a little bit of white with my skin tone. It just brightens it up slightly, and I'll save some to use for as a shadow for later. So I'm just gonna brighten up my skin tone here. Okay, as soon as you like your skin tone color, go ahead and put that in. There we go. Just going to quickly paint it in. Now, if you can paint over your tracing without losing it, you can do that. Okay, just go very gently. The only concern is losing it, and we don't want that to happen to you. If you do, it's pretty easy to put the eyeball in and the glasses back in. I use a cup to trace my glasses in. Okay, so if you do lose it, you can just grab a cup from your kitchen and trace in your glasses again. But you do want to be able to see that skin tone through your glasses, so that's why I'm painting right on through there. If you want to take the time to go around your eye, you can. I can see my tracing really well, so I'm not too worried about it. I just filled it right in there. Okay, so I've got Harry's skin tone in there. Perfect. Okay, now let's rinse our brush again. Make sure it's nice and clean. And we're going to start painting our books. And I'm starting from the top and working my way down. So my first book is blue. Again, if you want to switch this up, you can. I'm going to stick with my pattern, obviously, but my blue is mixed with some white. I wanted to lighten it up a little bit and not have it too dark. I'm going to save some of my dark blue for later if I want to use it for any shading. But my first stroke of blue is going to be lighter. Okay, so mix some of that blue with your white. And let's try and paint from side to side to give it that long brush stroke. Right? I'm going to try and keep the edge nice and straight, which the key to getting a straight edge is to not pick up your brush as you go all the way across. Take some practice. It's tricky to do, but it's worth trying if you want that straight edge. All right, I'm going to wrap it around here on the side to get that book. There we go. Go across here as well. We have lots of fun book shades to do here pretty soon. I'm going to show you how to kind of give it that older look. And go all the way across. There we go. Okay, so book number 1 is in here. Okay, now the reason I had you save some of that dark shade is for this purpose. So now I'm going to show you how to float the edges with that darker shade. So all you're going to do, leave your brush, don't rinse it, keep that light blue on it, and put a touch of your dark blue on the corner. See that? So I have dark blue just on the corner of my brush. I'm going to face that dark blue up towards the top of my book and brush it across. Okay, best I can here. I need more paint. I ran out halfway across. I have a little bubble there. There we go. Okay, and we're going to try and go straight across the book to give it a little bit of that shade along the top. Right, there we go. Okay, I'm going to do it along the bottom as well. You can kind of see it better maybe. This shade isn't super obvious, it's just enough so that your painting doesn't look flat. It gives your book a little bit of dimension there. Okay. So there we have it. And this is just one of the shades. Now we're going to do this on all of our books. So you're going to have a lighter shade and a darker shade. Okay, so I'm going to rinse my brush now. And I'm actually going to skip this book and now do my middle book. The reason is I don't want my orange to mix with my blue paint, so I'm gonna skip it, let the blue dry a minute, and we're gonna do our green book next. And again, I'm mixing some of my white with my green here. Okay, mixing that, getting a lighter shade of green. There we go. And now I'm gonna paint this middle book the same way I did my blue, side to side here. Fill it in all the way across, trying to keep that straight line again. Ooh, we just doing our best, right? Doing our best. Paintings are not meant to be perfect. It is not a poster. That's what we like to tell our artists. It's not a poster, it's a painting, guys. It is a painting. So let those brush strokes show and imperfections, and it's perfect. So now that I've brushed in my lighter green, I'm gonna do my darker shade again by putting a little bit on the corner of my brush, just like that. Okay, and facing that darker shade up, then going across the top of my book. Okay, and that just gives it that floated edge, wrapping it around. There we go. And it doesn't have to be super obvious unless you want it to be. You can make it darker if you want it darker. I'm keeping it kind of light, not super dark. Okay. Just having some shading there makes it so nice. It adds those little details we love. All right, so now I have my green on. I'm rinsing my brush. Really good. We're gonna get good at rinsing between colors. Now I'm going to paint this one later. I'm skipping this book again. We're going all the way to the bottom. And this book's a little different. I have my pages showing on this one, and it's brown. So I'm mixing some of my brown and white together. Okay, just a touch of brown and white here. And since my pages are showing on this one, I'm just going to paint along the edge, and I'm using the toe of my brush. This is if my brush is standing on its tippy toes, right? Okay, I'm gonna use the very tippy point of my brush and come straight across the edge for that page. However, if you have a detail or line brush and you prefer to use that for your book line, go ahead and use it. I like using a flat brush, but it's all preference, right? It's what works best for you. So I'm gonna come right here along the edge of this line, paint straight across with the tippy point of my brush. Again, this line doesn't have to be perfect because it's an old book and the pages are worn. So it's not a perfectly stiff book. So I kind of let the imperfections show. I'm going to come here along the bottom as well. Paint right along the bottom edge. This is where you can wrap the bottom of your canvas if you want. Reach around and paint the bottom part. Okay, I'm going to go over this one more time. Make sure we have a solid amount on there. Awesome. Okay, I'm going to do the bottom part one last time. Give it a good line. Just like that. Perfect. Again, rinse your brush. Now at this point, this blue is dry for me, and so is my green. If yours isn't, you can wait a second. I'm going to go ahead and paint the book here, and it's the same as our last one. It's just the pages. So I'm going to mix a touch of my white and orange together now. Man, we used every color in the rainbow for Harry. Just makes it so fun, right? So I'm going to mix some orange and white together. And I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to just use the toe of my brush and paint straight across the top next to my book here to give it those pages. There we go. From edge to edge, right? I do have a little bit of a lump there, so I'm struggling to get a straight line, but it's okay. We can paint the center white later too, so I'm not too worried about it. All right, now let's do this next one without smearing our paint, hopefully. Okay, I'm going to come straight across here, side to side. Just use the toe of my brush to paint that in. And there we go, we got our book pages on there. Awesome. I'm going to do one more stroke across the top. Make sure we have a good layer on there. Gotta focus on this line here. All right. Good. Let's do one more here. Awesome. Okay, now rinse your brush once you have those pages on. We're going to do our next one right here, our purple book. Okay, now our purple book, we're going to do some of the floating like we did the blue. So save some dark purple for later. I'm just going to mix a little bit of my purple with white, and I'm going to save some of that to use in a minute. I want a light purple here for the top of my book, because actually this book here is going to be split. You're showing the top part of the book and the binding of the book. Okay, so I'm going to come straight across, corner to corner, and separate it. Okay. There we go. Just do a nice straight line, or the best you can there on that line. Okay, and now we're going to paint the top part of the book a lighter shade of purple. Just going to fill that in, side to side, long strokes. Okay, and come up here on the edge to meet the green. There we go. Come straight across here. And then this edge comes down slightly. There we go. So now you have the top of the book painted. Give this some dimension here. It's kind of fun for our artists to see how that works. Okay, so I have my top part. Now I'm going to paint this front part a shade darker. So I'm grabbing some of my darker shade now of purple. Okay, and I'm going to paint the front a little bit darker. It's not super noticeable right now. It will be in a minute when we start putting the rest of our shades on there. All right, try and give yourself those long strokes. That is the goal. From side to side. Go. Want to get that binding right. Fill it in. Get the edge here. Not too worried about the edge. It's going to be black here in a minute. So don't stress that too much. I'm getting as close as I can to my brown. Okay. Perfect. There we go. So now we have our purple on there. If you feel like the top isn't showing enough, you can lighten it. I'm going to do it just so you can really see the contrast a little better. There we go. That should help you see the top part and then the bottom. So you have the top part, and then you have a long rectangle shape for the binding part of the book. All right, good job, guys. Let's rinse our brush. We accomplished a lot already. Amazing. Okay, well, let's go ahead now and give that just a minute to dry. I'm going to actually give myself some yellow. I forgot to give myself yellow, and we need just a little bit of the yellow for this part. Okay, so I have my yellow sienna color here. Okay, to do our blending on our face, and we'll use it for our book binding as well. So right here along Harry's head, around his hair, I'm going to float just a little shade of this deep sienna color. Okay, if you would like to do this with me, you can, or you can just leave it the way it is. It's just a little shade, so I'm going to put some on the corner of my brush, and you'll see as I brush, you can see that yellow, just a little bit of shading there, right along the edge. Okay, so I'm going to put a tiny touch of it on the corner of my brush. This is an extra added detail that's not necessary, just if you want to do it, if you want to add some shading. Okay, so I'm going to go around Harry's hair here with this color. And it doesn't have to be super noticeable. This is just totally optional. Totally optional. If you want to add it. And I'm just going to add a little bit here, just around his hairline. It's just a way of giving him some shading there without a lot of effort. Okay. And keep it nice and light. We don't want it to take over his cute face here. Okay, I just keep a little bit on the corner of my brush, just like that. Oh, I got too much on that one. There we go. Okay. There, I got a chunk on my brush. Okay, we're gonna come around this side. You can kind of lightly see it, right? It's not like I'm going into the hair a little bit because I'm not too worried. I'm going to paint it black here in a minute. So I'm just putting that shading around before we do the hair, just along the hairline. Again, optional. I have some artists that want to do it, some that prefer not to. So it's great either way. Okay. Beautiful. Put a little more over here so you can see it better. There we go. There we go. There's Harry's little shadow there around his hair. I'm going to rinse my brush now. And while that is drying, let's go ahead and work on the pages on our books. So first thing we need to do is paint our pages white. Okay, so I'm going to get some white here on my brush. I'm just going to do a quick layer of white over it. Then I'll show you how we get to make them look older. And this is where also, if you want to clean anything up, you can on your pages. If you want a straighter page, or feel like you went in a little too much, just go right along it with the white and clean it up. Okay, so once my pages are all ready to go, the way that we make our pages look a little bit older and worn is I have white here on my brush. I have white on my brush, and I'm actually just going to put a little bit of brown on the corner of it with my white. And we don't want our pages to turn completely brown, right? So I like to put it on the corner and just kind of wipe it off a little bit on my plate, like that. Okay, I'm going to start here just on the corner and brush in some brown, very lightly, just like that. I'm making it look older by just lightly brushing in brown on my pages. Now I don't want my pages to turn completely brown. I try to keep it pretty minimal, just enough to give it some age. See that? So just lightly brush it in. If you feel like, oh no, I have too much brown, stop, let it dry a minute, put white right over it, and that will clean it up. You won't have to worry about it. We're going to do the same thing on the other one. Okay, so I've loaded my brush with a little bit of brown on the corner. The rest of it's white, right? Okay, and here we go. I'm just going to come up here. I'm going to brush in some brown just along the edge where I think it might look a little older. Just like that. Okay. You can put some brown along the bottom part as well. Anywhere you think you want to add to those pages. Just remember to paint side to side with that brown. Okay? You want to paint side to side. Now I got some white in my book page here. I want my cover. So I'm going to paint that orange right back over it. You can do the same. Okay. I want to be able to see those orange pages. Perfect. Okay, there you go. You've got your old pages. We're going to add black in a little bit to add even more, but right now, that's all we're going to do. Okay, so next thing we need to do is grab a detail brush or a line brush because we're going to add a little bit of detail to our books. And so we want to use a detail brush for this. So I'm going to start here at the very top and add some binding, I guess is what you would call this, to my book. So right here between Harry's eye and his hair is about where I start this one. I'm just going to paint a square or a rectangle shape just like this, and I'm using white because we need to paint it white first before we add any details to it. So here we go. We're going to paint it white. Remember, if you're still working on your books or anything else, you can pause the video and take just a minute to work on it. You don't have to go my pace. Okay, I'm going to add another little square right here, right about where Harry Potter's eyes are glasses hit. Okay, I'm just going to paint it white, give me a good rectangle shape there. Trying to make them about the same on each side. But it's not going to be perfect. Okay, so we have that fun binding. Now we're going to do it on our green book. It's slightly different though. Our green book, I'm going to curve it. Okay, so I'm going to start about right here under this rectangle. Curve this binding so it looks a little bit like a rainbow shape or a sideways smile, and I'm painting it white. Okay, here we go. I've got one there. I have another one on the other side, so I'm just going to paint that in as well, curving it out. So we have that smile shape around our book. Here we go. Perfect. I like it. Okay, we're going to let that dry just a minute. This is going to help us add more details in a sec. I'm going to add one more layer of white over here. If it's dry enough for you to do that, go ahead and give yourself another layer if you need it of white on that blue. The blue takes a minute to cover. Sometimes you need another layer. So just make sure you add that if you need it on anything. Okay, looking amazing. I love it. Okay, rinse your brush. Really good. Make sure it's super clean. And now we're going to go ahead and give this a minute to dry. And let's go paint Harry's hair. So make sure you have a large or a small flat handy. And I'm going to load my brush up with black because Harry's hair is black. So we're going to just fill it up. Remember to take it a little easy here. Black covers everything. So I usually start from the top, work my way down and around. You can reach up now and paint the top of your canvas if you want to wrap it. But black with canvases needs water. If you have little white pockets showing up, make sure that you add a little bit of water to your brush to fill those pockets in as you go around, because if it's too thick, it just won't go in. Okay, so as I'm coming around here, around the face, I'm going to try not to pick up my brush. I'm going to start on the corner, come around, give Harry a nice, smooth hairline if possible. Okay, And if you feel like you need to use a smaller brush for this, feel free to do that. I'm using the toe of my brush as I come down. Okay, I'm using the toe to get that point of Harry's hair. Okay, I'm going to come up. See if I can get that. Oop. Yep, right there. Now we're going to come back down. Again, trying not to pick up our brush as we come around. Okay, got to give yourself a good start. Get that line going. There we go. I'm going to use the toe again to get that corner. Wrap it around for that hairline. So this just hits the books here. And then we're going to come back up and right off the canvas. Just like that. Lovely. Okay, let's see if we can do it over here. So I'm trying not to pick up my brush. I'm going to come around, use the toe for the point. Right? And come back up. And then we'll do it the same thing over here. Don't want too much of a glob on my paintbrush. Brush it around. Use the toe for the point, or you can use a detail brush if you feel like that would be easier for you. Gotta do what works for you on that, right? And then we're gonna do the same thing here. Comes right off the canvas. Trying to get that point. There it is. Perfect. Brush out any little drips you might have. Paint it down there. Love it. There we go. He's starting to come to life here. We're going to start seeing him. Okay. Let's see. Awesome. Okay. So this part, we're going to let that dry a second. Okay. And I'm going to show you how to, actually, let me think. Nope, we're going to keep going. All right, perfect. So now that the hair is done, let's go ahead and do our eyes with black. I'm actually going to switch to my detail brush for the eyes and the glasses. Okay, make sure you have lots of water on your brush and in your paint if it's starting to seize up on you. You want this to be nice and inky for doing a circle around your eye. Okay, so let's do our eyes first. I'm going to do our little Harry's eyes first, these big round circles. I like to do my circle. This gives you practice too for the glasses. Do your circle first. Okay, and then fill your circle in. So you want to make sure you have a nice circle for Harry's eye. There we go. And then once I have that, then I fill it in with black. Like that. Okay, I'm gonna let that dry. Let's do our other eye. Same thing, I create my circle first. All the way around. I try to go around without picking up my brush, but circles are just tricky. Okay, now that's done, I'm gonna fill it in. Make sure it's nice and covered. Lovely. Okay, next is Harry's glasses. Now, gotta make sure, again, that your black is nice and inky and ready to go for these glasses, okay? So I'm going to try to come around without picking up my brush. If I make it all the way around, you guys, you know I have enough water in my brush. If I don't, you know Miss Sarah needs more water. Okay, so I'm going to start here at the book. We're going to try and go up and around and give Harry, see? Nope, I ran out, guys. I ran out of water in that brush. Okay, or paint. Seized up on me. Okay, I'm gonna come around and meet the books. Oh boy, we did it though. There you go. It's the scariest part of the whole painting is getting these glasses on. Okay, there's one. One thing I love about this painting though is the beautiful imperfections, right? We don't need to worry too much about perfect circles or shapes. That's what gives it so much character. With Harry, these are not going to be perfect circles, and that's how it should be. All right, we're going to go all the way around here. There we go. Finish off those glasses. I like it. I think that's pretty good. You'll find too that if you keep going over it like Miss Sarah is doing, your lines will get bigger and bigger. So know when to stop. Okay, now we need to connect the glasses so Harry has a nose. Okay, now this is shaped like a rainbow, and I actually started just under the eye. Okay, so the center part just under the eye, so it comes up in the center of the eye. So I'm going to come right here, and we're just going to create this rainbow shape right across. Whoop. There we go. Right across the center for Harry's nose. I actually messed up my rainbow right there, and I'm going to show you how you can fix that if you did too. Okay, see right there, it's a little flat, and I want it more round, so I'm going to let it dry, and then you can put skin color right over it and take it off. We're going to let it dry. So let's just let it sit for a minute. It's looking good. Perfect. I'm liking this, guys. He's one of my faves. Favorite. Okay, now this purple book we need to work on for a minute. We need one more layer of purple right here. You want it nice and dark. It can be pretty quick, okay? So I'm just gonna grab some purple that I have here. I'm gonna go back and forth really quick on that. See how much darker it is with just one more stroke. Now you can really see the contrast. All right, now we're gonna start adding some dark to our books to make them look older. I'm going to show you how we do this. Take a small flat brush or a large flat brush. Okay, we're going to put a little bit of black on the very tip of it and then wipe it off a little bit. We don't want too much. We don't want it completely contaminated, okay? Now we're just going to come up here to the edges of our book and brush in some black. See that? You're just brushing it in lightly. Okay, we're just going to make them look older by brushing in some black on our books along the edge. And I just kind of do some of them long, some short strokes. Okay, we want them to be a little bit different. They don't all need to be the same kind of strokes. Some long, some short. The goal is to make them look like they're totally random. Okay, like that. See that? I'm just brushing it in. Right along here. Let's just add a little bit of dark here. Just anywhere you feel you want to add a little bit of age to your book. Anywhere you feel you want some shading. I'm going to add some right up here. Just like that. Okay. Now I'm going to come over here to this corner. Do the same thing along the top. Just kind of add in those strokes of black. Just the trick though is to not have too much black on your brush. Okay. Wipe it off on your plate. So it's not too much. We want to keep the books blue. We just want to to create the edge here. Give it a little bit of fun edge to it. All right. And then I'm going to outline the bindings here with the toe of my brush. You can also use a detail brush to do that. But you can kind of see how this instantly made it look a little older. Okay, here's your practice run with the blue book. We're going to do it to the green and the purple too. Awesome. Okay, so there's our older book there. Okay, so this is how we're going to do it with the orange book. We're going to do the same thing. You're going to come right here along the edge of the orange book and brush in a little bit all the way around the corner. See that? Instantly gives it an older look about it, right? Okay, I'm going to do it over here as well. We're just going to go around the edge, brush in some black just along the edge of that book. We're going to outline it in a minute, so don't worry too much about whether it looks just perfect there on the edge. The outline will change that. Okay, now we're going to brush in some lines. You can use the toe of your brush, like I'm doing, or use a line or detail brush for this. Okay, totally up to you on that. I'm going to brush in some lines for my pages. Some are going to be short, okay, and some are going to be long. You can even brush it with your finger if you want it to fade out a little bit. This is where you can get super creative with these books. I am doing a line straight across the edges to separate the orange from the pages. There we go. We want to brush in some lines from the other side as well. Some short, some long. Okay, we're getting that older look about our book here. See that? So use your line brush or the toe of your brush to add in those fun pages. Okay, I'm doing awesome, guys. These are just the little details that make all the difference. So I'm going to do a couple here as well. Just going to add in some little edges of dark to my green book, brushing it in. Use your line brush here if you feel like it's easier. Again, you want to use what works for you. Okay. There we go. And do the same thing here. I'm just going to do a couple of lines. Whoop. That was a thick one. Don't want it that thick. It's okay though. Just gonna brush it out. It's the fun thing with this. You can just roll with what works. Okay. Do a couple little lines. Come over to this side and do the same thing along the edge. Just want it to look older and worn. Here we go. So have some fun with it, guys. Let's see what you come up with. Just brush in these little lines. Okay, I'm going to add a couple here. Some long, some short, right? Don't want a pattern. Okay, awesome. All right, now again, I'm going to come straight across the top of my book. Add that line. You can do this with your detail brush if it's easier. I do like using my line brush for long strokes, or not my line brush, my flat brush for long strokes here. It's just easier for me. Okay, awesome. I like it. It's looking good. Let's see if this little clump I made is drying. Yep. There we go. Just kind of make it look like it was meant to be. Age it a little bit. Okay. Perfect. Like it. Okay, now we're going to work on our purple. Same way. So we're going to start at the top and let's just brush in some black along the edges. I'm just dusting it here. Okay, and I'm going to do it. You're going to be really good at books by the time we're done with this. Do some lines here, make it look older on top. Just like that. I'm going to come over and do the other side now as well. Same way, just brush in some black along the edge there. Some strokes should be longer than others. Okay, just like that. So now you have your older book on that one. Okay, this part here in the front, I really made a lot darker. So I'm going to brush in quite a bit more black here because I wanted the contrast to really show. So I'm brushing in a lot of that black. I'm really putting a lot more in there on the edges, like that. Okay, on both sides. You can always go back and add more purple if you need it. So if you feel like it got out of control, that's okay. It happens. But I'm brushing in quite a bit more along there. I'm going to come right along the edge of the binding here to separate it with black. Here we go. Okay. Nice. Gonna brush it in. See how much darker it is there. I'm going all the way across the edge with the black. I really wanted that purple one to look a lot more magical. Okay, so we have that one done. Rinse your brush if you need to. We're going to do the last pages here. Same way, I'm just brushing it in from the edge. Okay, both sides, just to give it that age. And then again, I'm going to add some pages with the very tippy point of my brush, tippy toes. Okay, add those pages to make it look like they're rippling across here. Some long, some short. Okay. Totally random. It doesn't have to be perfectly the same. And then I do go along the edge of my brown as well with the pages. So here, just right along the brown with the black. So you can outline this as well, or use the toe of your brush to fill in the black along the edges. That looks awesome. Love it. Perfect. There you go. Now you kind of know how to do old book look here. Magical and old, right? I love this. Okay. Whew, you did amazing. Now, all I do for all the edges of my books, if you want to do this, I'm just going to take my line brush and go around the edge with my line brush. Okay, and I'll do that on each book along the top here, and that cleans up that edge. That's why I wasn't too worried about the lines and everything there on the end, because I knew I was going to come back and take care of it with this brush. So I'm just going to outline it here. Along each book, it just cleans up those books and the edges. We go all around here. Just follow the purple book as well. Give it a clean line. Now, if you prefer not to outline it, that's okay. You do not have to. Some of our artists prefer not to. I am going to do it on my green here around the white. Like that, just to clean it up. Okay, clean up those bindings. Now I'm going to outline these. I already did pretty much, but if you want to clean them up, you can, if they need it. Okay. It also helps with the shading and everything to add that. Now I am going to go right along the bottom of this one with my line brush, because I didn't do it with my flat one. Make sure you have water on your brush. I have to double check mine. All right, so I'm going across here. Gives it some shading, cleans it up. There we go. Beautiful. Okay, now I want to go across the top of the very top book here. Not the last book, but last book we're painting, but right along the top here. Okay. This is tricky when my canvas is standing up like this. Woo. I usually hold it for a sec here. So if you feel more comfortable holding that canvas to go across, but we did it. Look at that. Fantastic. Okay, we are on the home stretch, guys. We're gonna finish up. Now the white here, I'm going to add a little bit of that raw sienna yellow. Okay, it's kind of a deep yellow here. You just kind of add it to your binding along the edge, like that. Give it some color, so it's not just a white binding if you want. I'm going to brush it in here as well. Okay, just kind of brushing it in. I don't want it to take over my white. I want some of my white to show. Again, this makes these books look a little older and worn. So I'm just brushing in a little bit of that raw sienna yellow. There. Lovely. That is awesome. I love it. Okay. Rinsing my brush. Awesome. We're going to just finish up now by adding Harry's scar, right? We can't forget that. And the way I like to teach his scar is it's a Z shape, okay? And we're going to use red. So decide where you want to put it. I'm putting it right here, kind of in the middle of his hair. And I like to create a Z shape by coming down here, right? Here's another. Connect it there, and then back down, just like that. There it is. Simple as that. Simple as that. Now I kind of widen it just a little bit here to make it a little more prominent, you know, just because that's awesome. So there's his scar. Now we know it's Harry for sure. All right. Now we're going to add some highlights real quick. First, I want you to add them to his eyes, so you can add green to his eyes. I just add a little bit of a smile shape here on each side of his eye. And we're going to do that so it can dry a minute, and then you can paint them whatever color you want. I did it green because Harry's eyes are green, I do believe. Unless someone corrects me, otherwise I could have sworn they were. Now I'm going to add some highlights to his hair. Just some little strokes here. Just around his hair. Give him, you know, a little bit of movement there in his hair. Put a little bit here. some over here on this side as well. Perfect. If you want to, you can kind of add some here to make his hair look a little, or his head look a little more round if you feel like you need to do that on your canvas. Okay, perfect. Alrighty, we're also going to add some light. Actually, it's not super noticeable, but I'm going to put it here, a reflection in his glasses. If you add some white, you'll see the difference. Put a little bit of a reflection there. You might not be able to see it very well in the camera, but it's there, I promise. I'm also going to add some right here to the top of his nose above his glasses. And now that his glasses are nice and dry, I'll show you if you need to round out his glasses a little more like I do. Just come right there with their skin color, and looky there, just round it out and it's perfect. Don't ever have to stress too much about some things because they're super easy to fix with acrylic paint. All right, last thing we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to put the words on Harry's books. You can write whatever you want on these. You don't have to do it like mine, but I had a little bit of fun creating this. Let's see if I can do it again. But I used my detail brush, and I'm going to put a 5 on this book. The top one is Owl Breeds, and the way I create this 5 is I'm going to first start as if I'm just writing a normal 5, as we always do, right? Okay, so I'm going to paint my 5 as if that's what I'm doing. But when it comes to a circle, instead of a circle, I am going to create triangles, okay, all the way around my 5 here. And you'll notice it kind of gives it that magical look. So you instead of curving, you give it triangle shapes, okay? If that makes any sense. So instead of a curve, I triangle it out. Okay, instead of curving the top of my 5, I give it an indent, like as if I was going to create a triangle. So we'll do the same thing with Owl Breeds, and you can write it first with chalk. A lot of times I will do that to help with placement. So if I were to do owl, I'll put it in chalk really quick. And you can even just write owl regularly, and then I'll show you how to change it up. Okay, so breeds. Again, instead of creating a circle, I create triangles with everything. All right, so once you have it traced in, if you want to take the time to do that, just remember the key is anytime you do a circle, it is shaped like a triangle, and that gives it that magical feel to it. Okay, so now that I've traced it in with my chalk, I'm now going to go back over my chalk with black. And once you trace it in, it goes pretty quick. So here's my circle again. I'm going to do triangle shapes to create it. Okay, my triangle already is a triangle, so I don't have to worry too much about that. And then my L, on each corner, I create that triangle shape sticking out. Kind of makes it fun. And you can get super creative with this and just have a good time. Okay, my B, triangles here. My R, instead of wrapping around the top in a, instead of curving the top, I'm going to do a triangle top. My E's are pretty much already shaped. Okay, I'm going to do my E's. So I have my Owl Breeds, my D here, triangle instead of a circle, and my S. It's probably the trickiest one because you're trying to make that triangle all the way around instead of curves. Probably the trickiest one to do, but you can do it. All right, so herbology here, same kind of idea. My H, I'm just going to curve it out a little bit and add this squiggly line through the center. Kind of fun. Okay, my E's, same way. Here we go. I've got my triangle there on the top of it. My R, instead of curving it, triangle shape on top. My B, triangle it out. O, looks like a diamond shape. And my L, almost looks a little bit like I'm making a Z, right? Again, my O, diamond shape. And my G is a diamond shape with a line down. And then my Y is pretty much just the same, only I gave it a little bit of a tail, triangle tail. Okay, so magical theory. Just give ourselves a regular M there. And my A, triangle it out. G, same way we did before, give it a little bit of a tail. My I is like my L with a dot above it. Okay. My C, you can either triangle that C out a little bit like I did or wrap it around, whatever you're feeling at that time. My A, again, got our triangle shape there. L with our tail. There's magical. My T is just the same. I just made myself a regular T there. My H, though, I created a triangle shape up top, and it's theory. So my E here, round with a triangle. O is my diamond shape. And R, straight line with a triangle top. And then my Y, create a Y, the line down, and give it a tail. There we go. Now you've done it. You have your magical writing. It's kind of fun. Okay, the only thing I do here in a second, I'm going to give that just a minute to dry. The only thing I do is I add some white along the edges of my letters if you really want them to stand out. Give it just a minute and let's finish our eyes. I'm going to use the back of my brush to put a little bit of sparkle or reflection to stamp that circle in each eye. Just adds so much, right? Finishes that off. Then you see Harry come to life. And then now that your white is in there, you can paint over your white with green and you can see how it really stands out next to the black. If you just make sure that white is on first. I love that, right? Rinse your brush. And now if you want to, this is where you can come back to your letters and add any white wherever you feel like you really want them to stand out. So I just quickly go along the edges of them so they can be read clearly if you want them to be. I don't spend too much time worrying about it. All right, and then once your chalk is dry, you can go back through with a damp towel or a rag and just wipe off the chalk if you used it. It's one reason we love chalk in our studio is it's super easy to just go right back over it and wash it off. And you're able to give yourself some help before you put the paint on. So a little tip from us, get yourself some chalk if you would like to trace anything in before you paint, because your acrylic paint acts like a chalkboard. Okay. Here we go. Let's finish up here a little bit. Give it a little bit of highlight so it stands out. And you guys, you don't even have to do this if you prefer not to. I like little extra details. I tend to do it all the time if I want things to really pop. Just takes a minute. Okay. Yeah, there we go. Put a little bit here next to our Y so you can see it next to the dark. There we go. Lovely. Guys, you did it. Harry's books. He is ready to go. Now, last thing we do is we encourage our artists to find a special place to sign their name. You've worked really hard. You've earned it. We're going to find a spot, and I'm going to sign mine right over here in this little corner. Make sure you use a line brush or a detail brush for your name. It helps. Any color you want, any place you want. Sign that work. You did an incredible job. Be sure to tag us, give us a thumbs up if you loved it, and we look forward to painting with you next time. We'll see you later. Bye.